saw safety, and with going over table saw safety, the first thing that you got to make sure that you got, let me make sure this is running. We're good. First thing you got to make sure you got is your safety glasses. You got to have these on. The blade is spinning towards you, and so it's going to be throwing sawdust and potentially small wood chips towards your face. So you got to have safety glasses on. The next thing we got to go over. The first thing that I do is set my blade height. All right, your blade height should be 1/4 of an inch above the wood, or 1/2. The saw, the guard right here, just lift it up. It'll stay in place right there. Put your piece of wood beside of the blade. All right, the blade is going to come up here. This knob right here. The first thing you got to do is you got to loosen this center knob. And then you will turn this counterclockwise, or clockwise, sorry. If you'll notice, the blade's coming up as I'm turning it clockwise. And I want to get in blade 1/2. The bottom of that valley right there should be the top of the wood. So I've got my blade height set, move my wood, my guard down. I'm going to just turn that center knob in. This big knob will not turn. All right, this big knob will not turn if you don't loosen the center knob up. So I can turn on it and it ain't going to go anywhere. All right. Next thing I do is to set my blade height. Sorry, not my blade height, my rip fence. Your rip fence determines how far away you are from the blade. So that determines how wide of a cut I'm going to make. Rip means to cut with the grain. All right, if you look at my board, I'm going to cut with the grain. Now, one of the things I have you guys do is take whatever board it is and I can have you cut it in half. Now, we've already been over with the miter saw how to cut on the waist side of the line. And the waist side of the line is where your blade stays on the waist side so that the saw blade curve takes out all the material on one side of that line. The only time you cut on the line, okay, the only time that you actually want to cut on the line is if you're going to cut something in half. Supposedly, or if I'm going to cut something in half, I'm going to use both sides of my wood, okay? Now, with the table saw, I see kids do this all the time. You can, but you don't have to. I see kids mark their wood, all right? So this board is 5.5, all right? If I were to take half of 5.5, well, half of 5 is 2.5. Half of 6 is 3, so in between that is 2 3/4. I could put a mark up here at 2 3/4. Now, I personally don't ever actually put a mark on the board. I do what I'm getting ready to show you. So you can put a mark on your board, and if you wanted to, you can take your board, lift this up, get down here, unlock your fence, and I can put that mark in line with the center of the blade. Now, I want it in the center of the blade instead of the right edge of the blade if I'm cutting it at half. Now, if I just want to rip something down to 3 inches, then I would just set my saw over here on 3 inches. So this particular saw is set up to where if you set this little magnifying glass, this little marker here, you set it up, you're going to be setting it to cut on the waist side of the line. So it's going to put you 3 inches between here and this side of the blade. All right. So in order to cut on the waist side, if I know that my measurement is 2 3/4, so I want half of 5.5, it's 2 3/4. I can take this, put my tape measure against the fence like this, and I can move my fence until I get 2 3/4 right in the center of the blade. Like my blade actually moved on me a little bit. Sometimes you got to do some small adjustments to get it just right if you want it perfect. So I got my blade height set, got my rib fence set. Those are the first 2 things you do, pretty much always. Make sure your guard is set. All right. Now, I didn't use the measuring tape on this because I'm cutting in half, and this is set to cut on the waist side of the line. All right. The next thing that you've got to do is turn on your saw. Now, this just turns on the saw in general, and your saw runs checks. Your saw runs a system of checks to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. There aren't any problems. Okay. Once this red light goes off, all right, now we can turn the blade on. I'm not ready to turn the blade on yet. We're going to show you one other. I want to show you this right here is called your riving knife. All right. Some people call it a splitter. All right. It keeps wood that has already gone past the blade. Make sure that the wood stays split apart. And it also makes sure that wood doesn't turn into the blade. All right, especially really small pieces of wood, it's easy for them to get turned. wood can't go into the blade. If that's not there, the back teeth are ripping or coming up, they grab the wood and they throw it back at you. So that splitter is a really valuable safety mechanism on saw. You've got two paws right here. There's two large paws and two small paws. These, once the wood goes through here, they have teeth on it that dig into the wood to keep it from kicking back. Now, the paws only actually work once the wood makes it to the paws. If the woods don't make it to the paws, then it can still kick back. So that's not something we're going to rely on. If we don't, obviously don't have to. We got the saw turned on. One thing, we're not going to do that. This one is cut. This one right here. If you loosen this knob up, loosen the center knob up, and then you turn the big wheel. You got to turn it clockwise as well. You can see down here this little red indicator is moving, and we're going to set that on right there. It's 15 degrees. That puts a 15-degree bevel on my table saw here. All right. So beveling wise, that is how you bevel. If you will turn it counterclockwise until it stops, it will go back to 0. 0 is straight up and down. Yeah. So your rip fence, one of the things I want to always like to show kids whenever they, that's how you unlock it, that's how you lock it, but whenever you move your rip fence, all right, you don't want to move it using the handle because it jiggles and it's very hard to get in place. So whenever I'm moving the rip fence, I actually put my hand up here on the fence. And I gotta get my tape measure back out to get it reset, but so that just takes a second. All right, we're gonna pause that. That's the initial setup, how you get your table saw running. And we're gonna show you actually how to make a cut from a different angle and different view.